Well, I think a lot of people around Westminster thought this would go on a lot longer, the police investigation, and would have an unhappier ending for Boris Johnson. So right now it looks as though he's had yet another sort of miracle escape from a closing net. Those people who were manoeuvring to try and make sure that Boris Johnson was removed as Prime Minister, people in his own party are saying tonight, not so fast. Some of them are saying, wait for the Sue Gray report, that report that everybody's been waiting for, it seems, for a very long time. That is now expected next week. Could that point to a culture inside Number 10, which in itself could point to the Prime Minister and be his downfall? One interesting thing, when you delve into the numbers in the police statement today, 2/3 of the fines that were issued went to 28 people, a core, it seems, of people who perhaps were in the mood for parties. But that is coming next week. Some MPs saying that's make your mind up time for their colleagues. If they want to get rid of Boris Johnson, they've got to do it then. But those very same plotters, you can hear it in their voices, they're not sure their colleagues are going to do it, that some of the momentum has come out of all of this. The Prime Minister, the message is putting out the message to friends and allies, you mustn't look triumphant over this. I understand someone who saw him today said he had a bit of a spring in his own step. He's redesigning Downing Street right now. He did that in February, threw a few people overboard in the wake of Partygate. He's doing it again now with every intention of shoring up his position and staying there. But there are an awful lot of other problems that could get him, not least the cost of living, that could build up antipathy amongst voters and therefore in his party. He may have slipped one hook, only perhaps in the future to be caught on another. For months he's been a Prime Minister at bay.
And I know the rage they feel with me, and I apologise.
Knowing his MPs could move against him if the police showered him with fines. But today his fortunes turned when the Met announced he'd get no more fines for gatherings in Downing Street beyond the one he'd already got.
This investigation started on the 25th of January this year, and it has been completed today, which is why we're talking with you today.
I'm very pleased that the police have acted efficiently, got the investigation completed. You know, the Prime Minister's obviously apologised for the birthday cake incident. I hope now that we can move on.
Amongst Tory MPs who'd said Boris Johnson's time was up, reaction was divided. You thought Boris Johnson was a goner, didn't you?
I did, and I told him so. And he said, Charles, I disagree with your analysis of my position, and he was right, and I was wrong.
He's absolutely not a goner? It's not that this is going to be a slow death and he just didn't happen to die this time?
No.
You think he's there all the way to the election?
I think the danger, the trap we all fall into, is to underestimate the Prime Minister Boris Johnson. I mean, he is an extraordinary politician and does things that other politicians can't do.
I think there may be quite a lot of angry people who will feel that he has had a get out of jail card, but it's not my business to challenge that with the Met Police. The Sue Gray report is still coming down the tracks, and there are a number of other issues on the horizon, not least the Prime Minister's desire to tear up the withdrawal agreement. And I don't think he's by any means out of the woods.
Some lawyers were baffled by the Met's decision not to fine Boris Johnson multiple times when they did fine officials who attended the same events. It appears that could be because Downing Street is Boris Johnson's home as well as his office. At the end of a £500,000 4-month investigation, the Met announced the 3 Downing Street residents got just one fine each. The fines issued last month to Boris Johnson, his wife Carrie and the Chancellor Rishi Sunak for attending a short birthday gathering 2 years ago in the Cabinet Room. But there were 123 fines issued to 80 Whitehall officials. 28 of them got more than one.
Are you still calling for the Prime Minister to resign? We've got the results now of the Met investigation.
My view of the Prime Minister hasn't changed. Of course, after an investigation that shows 120 plus breaches of the law in Downing Street, of course he should resign. He's responsible for the culture.
But it's now Keir Starmer who still faces a continuing and potentially career-ending police investigation. Partygate threatened to bring down the Prime Minister, though many MPs today were saying there's still a 50% chance he doesn't make it all the way to the election.
50-50 isn't exactly a ringing endorsement, is it, to say the least? My personal view is that it's probably lower than that. I still feel that there's a likelihood of a leadership challenge mounted before the summer recess.
So over the past few weeks, when you've been in the tea room talking to colleagues about the Prime Minister and Partygate, and the question is asked, if not Boris, who else? And there's a sort of nervous shuffling in the seat, and then colleagues start looking at their feet.
And that's what's going to keep them in there, you think?
Well, he is the dominant political figure, not just in our party, but I think in UK politics.
Partygate isn't over, with the Sue Gray report still to come and a Privileges Committee Commons investigation still to get underway. But Boris Johnson has emerged less damaged than many predicted from the police investigation, and his allies are breathing a sigh of relief tonight.
Gary Gibbon reporting. Well, earlier I spoke to the Met Acting Deputy Commissioner Helen Ball, who you saw in Gary's report, and I started by asking her what the methodology behind the fixed penalty notices to Partygate attendees was. And why did the Met hand out fixed fines for some, but not for others?
Well, first of all, let me make it clear that we're not going to identify individual people involved in this investigation. Today, we've completed our investigation into events at Downing Street and Whitehall, and we've referred for 126 fixed penalty notices to be issued. We have decided to make those referrals on the basis of a very painstaking investigation, which has looked at over 1,000 documents, photographs, CCTV
510 photographs.
clips, yes, all in that material. And we've gone very carefully through that. And we've decided to make a referral for a fixed penalty notice based on strong evidence existing. We've looked at every instance from the point of view of the date that was in question, the circumstances of the offence in question, of the event in question, and also the activity of each individual person. And it's on those bases that we've made each individual decision.
But because of the political importance of this, which won't have escaped you, because it is in the public interest, because the people involved set the rules that they then broke, shouldn't the public have access to the names, again, to the methodology, to some of the evidence?
I've described the methodology, and the important
but
thing
we're not
for me
getting anywhere. If the methodology is just described in abstract like this, we can't really apply it to those particular cases, can we?
Well, I think
the public will want to know.
I think the public will understand the method by which we've gone about this investigation. You know, as we've described, an enormous amount of different bits of material have been examined. You know, I've described photographs, CCTV clips, documents, but I could go into more detail, and we're happy to do that.
Will you be releasing any of the evidence to the public?
No, we won't be releasing further evidence to the public.
So no photographs will be seen by the public?
That's right, that's correct. Not from our police investigation. 126
fixed penalty notices for the people that made the rules that they then broke. That's quite astonishing, isn't it? What's your reaction, as a senior officer of the Met, to the fact that the government that set the rules broke them so often?
Well, the important thing for me to say is that we have very clear criteria for starting an investigation, which we applied. Those criteria include that people knew or ought to have known that there was a breach, that not to investigate would undermine the legitimacy of the law, and that there was likely to be an absence of a reasonable defence. We judged that those criteria were in place, and so we started our investigation at the end of January. And the fact that we've referred for 126 fixed penalty notices to be issued, I think shows that that investigation was needed and was justified.
And so it's lasted several months. It cost £500,000. Was it money well spent in the end?
I think that money was necessary to be spent so that we could do a really thorough investigation, make sure that where we were going to refer for a fixed penalty notice, the evidence was strong, do that diligently and impartially. And that was necessary in order to carry out that investigation.
Acting Deputy Commissioner, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.